There we are. Okay, here we go. We're off and running. I have never run this live before on YouTube. I'll probably get a viewer here in a minute. So let's get going here. This is all new to me, so I'm kind of learning the ropes as we go. If anyone wants to say hello, I'm going to say hello to everyone here as we get going. Hello. Hello, Stacy. Hi, Mel. Look at you guys. Stacy and Mel, the first ones here. Nice. Just getting started. I am totally new on this YouTube live format. I've been using StreamYard, so it's gonna take me a minute here to get used to the change in atmosphere. But I'll get it down, I promise. Hey, Mythological Muse, look at this. Heroes. Hi, Craig. Hi, Jocelyn. Greatness. This is kind of unique right now. Hey, Pete. This is kind of unique right now because this is totally new, and so we got a tiny little group right now. This is a really unique opportunity for us. But I'm just trying to get my bearings right now. Chuck students here, good deal. Isn't this neat? Our own little family on YouTube. Hi, Cindy. Look at you coming in all the way from across overseas. Amazing. I don't know if I can show the live on screen like the other ones. Hang on. Let me see if I can do that. Okay. No, I just want live chat. Yeah. And then I'm wondering if I can get, I don't know the controllers here, so hang on. Channel settings, pop out dashboard, send feedback. Okay. Okay. Manage. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm just getting my bearings. This is a new, I usually broadcast from StreamYard, and so they have a totally different screen, and so I am getting used to this. So we're getting adjusted here. Hey King, glad to see you. We got the fam in the house today. This is amazing. So just a couple of things for y'all to know. Exactly, the diehards, exactly. Just a few things for you guys to know. This is just on YouTube, and the reason why we are doing this, we meaning me and the Nature Creature team, the reason why we're doing this is because the other channel, my other channel on YouTube, has just been rocked with all kinds of history. There's a lot of water under that bridge, and I felt like this would offer an opportunity to begin again, and in the sense of having a fresh, clean slate, and then building a following, and then just having this be a second opportunity to have chat, dedicate the channel to just live chat, and have no formal presentation. As you can see, I'm grabbing my shorts here, just getting going, but having no presentation ready, no formal production or anything like that, and having this just raw, authentic, real live discussion for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours every Wednesday. That's my goal. And to have it be a midweek check-in point, maybe if folks have any questions from the live on Saturdays, those are going to continue. There's not going to be any adjustment or change to the Saturday lives other than just continuing to have formal presentations for you guys as we're going through right now the Cassiopian study. So that's really the reason behind this. And then I can also monetize this channel so it can actually become eventually a support for the nature creature movement, because having it monetized offers some options that I don't have on the other channel, which will never be monetized. And that's why every week I can bring you guys copywritten music and so forth, is that the channel is not monetized. And so that's one of the artistic freedoms that I really need as a presenter and artist. I really need to be able to have musical freedom. And so not having that other channel monetized allows that. So that's a little bit of a background of why we're doing this. We got more folks showing up. This is great. Outstanding. Outstanding. Hey, PW Collins, nice to see you. Hey, Shan. Nice. Hey, Nancy, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Look at Jane Quota. Nice. Glad to see you. Australia in the house. Hey, Scoot. What's up, buddy? It's good to see y'all. So we're just getting rolling here. I've got some questions from the banner of last time. You guys are welcome to throw some questions into comments. Because I have no lecture, I have no Nothing that will grab my attention, so I can answer y'all's questions on the fly. I did have a couple of questions from this last week. Someone asked about the Akashic field, and they asked, it was this person named Jay Rulers, but they asked, what is Akasha? I'm sure they mean the Akashic field. I'm going to put it in chat so you guys see the question. Here we go. Oh, look at this from King. Chuck, caught you in Josh's spaces on X last night, grabbed a mic after you left, and was in there till Holy smokes, King, you went all in. Fantastic. Yeah, last night I was surfing my X channel. I like to find different little clues and insights on my X channel, so I like to frequent it. And there was a live show going on. And I have, when you go on to X, they show you any lives that are going in. And whenever I've got a live, or someone has a live going that I'm following, I typically jump in and just see what's going on. And so last night, there was like 2 people in this live chat on X, like nobody there. And these 2 dear people are just, talking about some really great things and, having a good discussion. And I thought, what the heck, I'll jump in. So I end up jumping in for about 30 minutes. And then I think that attracted King, because King saw that I was in the room. And I had a few things to say. I think the person has reposted it. I was there very briefly and just had a few things to say that I thought were important in regards to the world and nature and the big transition that's happening. And speaking of which, have you guys seen that really wild video that Elon Musk has been pointing out? I find it incredibly intriguing. It's basically a song that talks about the rebirth of America, which is along the lines that I've been talking with Nature Creature, which really is the rebirth of the world, not just America, but the rebirth of the world. And I find it intriguing that a person who has that kind of exposure and power would go to the trouble of releasing that video that talks about the awakening of humanity. And isn't it interesting that in the song, he makes it clear, the person who wrote the song makes it clear that the end is not done yet, that we are still in the determining point. And I've been pushing that with you guys for a while now in regards to we are determining our future. And if you guys remember, when I was doing the presentation just a few days ago, I mentioned that we are determining what happens to us as a collective based on our mindset, which is why there's been such a concerted effort to turn your mind negative and to make you basically a negative Nelly and a super downer, and telling everybody we're screwed and the world is doomed, and putting that kind of energy into the world, like many do, really pushes us towards that. Whereas having a voice of reason, a voice of love, a voice of connectedness, a voice of humanity that really endorses and substantiates the human spirit and the human collective and the power that we have individually and that we have as a collective. And I just thought that it was incredible that Elon put that song out. It was amazing. Let's see if you guys have any comments. What are your thoughts on the law of one? Scooter, that's a really great question. Is there a way for me to highlight that and show that? Pin message, put user, no. How do I put Scooter's message on the screen? Go to channel, pin, what's pin message? Does that do it? No. But anyway, Scooter asked, check out the comments here in live chat. He asked my thoughts on the law of one. Okay, so I had someone write me a couple of weeks ago, and they said that they noticed that I was doing the Cassiopian stuff, and they said, listen, if you want to understand better, you need to go to check out the law of one. And they sent a site, and they sent a link and everything. So I go to this thing called the law of one. And what's really intriguing about the law of one is that it comes out of a very similar situation as to how they performed the Cassiopian narrative, which was they took a conduit, an individual who would go into a trance, and then they had some materials at the head of the person who's laying down on a table, on a bed, and they have them like really comfortable and everything. And then this person goes into a trance, and then through the location of their head and the angle of basically a scent that they're taking on. They tune that person's body to a specific frequency that is coming in from these thought forms that come out of sixth density. And it's just like a radio frequency tuning on your radio back in the old days, when you would turn the dial and you would hone in and find that specific frequency on the FM or AM to listen to, and it would expand that condensed frequency into audible sound that you could hear. And so it's this take that same picture, and that's what they're doing when they're channeling. And so when they set up this law of one, law of Ra, and this Cassiopian thing, they had the same setup, which was, I thought was interesting. And they have the individual, and then they have moderators or people that are in the room with that person, the person that's in the channel. And the person that's channeling doesn't have any like memory of the situation. They go into this other altered state, and they're not in their conscious mind. They've moved into their subconscious, and their subconscious, the gut mind. Remember how much I've told you guys about the gut mind? The gut mind is what's cluing in to the sixth density thought form that's communicating to the channeler. And through the gut mind and then out through the voice, they talk. And then the people that are around the bed that are in on the situation write down the answers, record the answers, and take care of the important details to pull something like that off, to do it. Okay, so the law of Ra, or the law of one, was basically this channeling that came in. But the really interesting thing that I didn't particularly like about it was that this thing always started talking by saying, I am Ra. You know, it'd always say, I am Ra. And then it would, say what it would say, and then I am Ra. And, I thought, that's not how I would talk to my kids. Like, I wouldn't come to my kids and say, I am your dad. And then I would start talking. And then every time they ask a question, I am your dad. I just thought that was just a bit odd. And I didn't like that vibe. And I felt that the information that was coming through that law of one was basically the same basic information of the Cassiopians, but it was more centered on sort of the spiritual nature of the individual rather than the historical record. And that's fine. I didn't have a rub with that, but its presentation was in a way that wasn't real palatable for me. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time there. But maybe some others will glean insight from it. I felt that it was a very similar vibe and feel as the Cassiopian channeling. It was the same type of, breakdown. They did the same thing, had a person lay down. They're doing channeling and chances and chants and stuff like that to bring the person into that altered state. So it was okay. If you want my opinion, it was okay. It was fine. It's just basically, to me, it was kind of a rehashing of what the Cassiopians are doing. Yeah, it is. It is taking me a minute. I wish I could have you guys see what I'm seeing. Okay, so let's see what we've got in there. The last question I had was Scott. So let's go next. Okay. Lost sound. Do you guys not hear me? And came back and it's good now. Okay, it's good now. Chuck, I think you said the C's said the Lemurians were like some kind of proto-human predating the Semitic injection. They must have been pretty awesome. Okay, that's a great line, Pete. Yeah, the Lemurians in the, here, if I can, I don't know if I can share screen, but anyway, the Lemurians came directly after the first incarnation, when we, the collective, the human collective, jumped into the bodies that would allow us to have experience. And so what happened with the Lemurians is, before the controllers had really gotten their fingers into the control mechanisms that would be used to control the life experience of us, the human collective, this incredible nation developed called Lemuria. And Lemuria was the first incarnation of people, and what happened when human beings first took form. And so the Cassiopians teach that the Oriental societies, Asian societies, and the North American and Native American societies are the closest emulations of Lemuria, of the thoughts and ideas that united the collective. And so this whole idea of flow, this whole idea of nature as the penultimate expression of God, sorry, someone sent me a text and it's distracting me. I think I'm going to shut my phone off so I don't get any distractions. Sorry guys, I'll go back to Lemuria in a second. I've got to get my phone to shut up or I'm going to go effing mad. Stop. Sorry, I'm just trying to get it shut off. Sorry. Okay. There. Now it won't bother me. I'm going to shut off my text here. I cannot be interrupted like that. Okay. So Lemuria, so the first incarnation of people was in this society, and that's where our whole idea of flow, our whole idea of nature as the penultimate example of the incarnation of the unspeakable, and this whole notion that we are not what we appear to be, and that philosophy that is embedded in the Native Americans and in the Asian Oriental societies is directly connected back to Lemuria. And Lemuria actually was here about 229,000 years before the Semitic introjection that we studied this last week. So Lemuria was a society of people that had never been altered in their brain with that Semitic induction. They had never been taken by it. And isn't it interesting that the philosophies today that most emulate that philosophy, which was pre-Semitic, is oriented to nature? And isn't it interesting that the Semitic inquest, you could say, is so centered on your misidentifying who you are, not knowing who you are? And isn't it interesting that these ideas of nature that come out of Lemuria, the whole idea is identifying with that, identifying through nature, not through a religion, not through an idea, but through experience, which we just mentioned this last Saturday. Experience doesn't count when it comes to getting to heaven in Christianity and Western religions. It's what you believe that matters. And isn't it interesting that it's what you believe and experience that matters when it comes to understanding the world through nature? Because that's how nature communicates to you, is through experience, not through words. Nature comes to you in the visceral, in the real here and now, in the day, and that's where that truth which can't be usurped sources from. So yeah, great stuff there. Great question there, Pete. Very well done. I wish I could get those questions up on this thing. I don't know how. I'll have to figure out how to do that. Okay, moving down now. Everybody put your questions in caps if you have questions in caps. Good. We're growing. There's more coming. Okay. Chuck. Hi, Jay. Nice to see you, buddy. Thanks for being here. Okay, Chuck, if animals operate in a 2D level consciousness, they do. They do. Does that mean when we ascend to 5D, only humans and gods will be there? Boy, Jay, this is a fantastic question. So what accesses that 5D contemplation and the real hardcore determining STO or STS is for beings, forms that have both the awareness, independent free will awareness, as well as the unconsciousness, the unconscious. Now, if you think about it, animals, minerals are all tied into that unconscious, which is the all, right? So they're tied in. But you see, animals, in many senses, in many ways that are unlike us, they don't have a free will. The animal is not contemplating its identity. The lion knows it's a lion, and it acts like a lion, and it is being a lion. The lion doesn't have a consciousness to say, you know what, today I'm not going to act like a lion. Today I'm going to act like a bear or an eagle. The lion is not in that kind of dreamy, imaginative, creative power zone. That power zone, that field of energy hasn't opened for the animal. Now, they definitely have empathy. I mean, they care for their kids. I mean, they definitely, I mean, look at elephants. They'll go back to their dead years and years and years later, decades later. They'll still be visiting the grave sites of their ancients. Okay. So there's a level there. There's a level there. But there is not the sense of free will there. And I'm going to get to your question here, Jay. There is not that sense of free will in the animal. Okay. The animal doesn't have that sense of creative power. That's why we build skyscrapers. That's why we build monuments. That's why we build complicated machinery. We have the faculty. We have the dexterity, right, to contemplate and create that world. So the animal isn't in that world. The animal is in the instinctual world. They're concerned with the lower three chakra. They don't have the heart chakra like we do. Our heart chakra transcends us through the lower three experience into the higher three spiritual. And that shift of emphasis happens on the axis of the heart. And there has to be a transitioning, a moving from this lower, unaware consciousness into the higher field of higher consciousness. And the animal's missing that capacity. Now, that is the capacity that's required to go to that 5D, to answer your question, Jay. So the animal, through millions of years of reincarnation and moving through the system of consciousness that is the universe, it's a being. The universe is a being that generates consciousness in the same way that the earth is a planet that generates people. Okay? So just have that concept in mind. And as you move through first density 1D consciousness through all the way to 6th and 7th D, there is a refinement that happens over vast epochs of time. And as you transcend and move through, you densify. In the same way that a star explosion eventually redensifies into planets, other stars, nebula, whatever you want to call it, whatever the case may be, out from that supernova. And so the condensing, the pulling together of opposites, the pulling together of the ineffable into the effable is what the universe is doing. It's pulling that which can't be said, that which can't be known, into a known field. It's a being that does that. Like you take your creative mind and an idea you have and you bring it into a known field, meaning you use your creative faculty to create something. And you're putting your faculty into the field of experience. This is what the universe is doing. This is the theater of the universe. That's why you came here. And so over time, that 1D consciousness moves into 2D. It crystallizes, and then it eventually moves into 3D. So the free will is born in that 3D, and it's a gradation. That's why you can see the gradation in the animal kingdom, where you have animals that are really feeling feelings of sorrow, like I said earlier, the elephant or the gazelle that just lost their baby. They have real feelings of panic, sorrow, whatever it is inside that animal. See, they are crystallizing. They're moving from the not, like there's nothing there, to there's something there that you can't see. And so now follow in the same way. That's what you're doing right now as a 3D. And eventually you're going to move past the plane of finite as you crystallize. You'll move out of time being an emphatic aspect to existence. Time is no longer emphasized or emphatic when you move out of 3 to 4D. If you guys remember my map, I'd show it to you, but I don't know how to share on YouTube. When you're moving through these planes, and see, it takes hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of years to literally just go from one plane to the next, to give you an idea of like timeline here. So when I show you guys timelines like I did last Saturday with the Cassiopians, And you see this 309,000 year epoch, 309,000 year epoch, 309, all before us. It's because that time is a non-factor in that non-3D world, the world that where form is not emphasized or emphatic. Time isn't emphatic. That's where we're going. So follow now. As you live your life here on this earth, do you know how you learn more, right? You experience more. You right now, as a full-grown adult, if you are one, you know that you're a lot wiser. You're a lot denser in your personality, in your take, in your feelings. You're more convicted in your life in general. Your values have intensified as you've lived, right? So the mind you had as a 10-year-old, right, to you now, it's like, okay, that was elementary. That was like, I didn't know anything, right? I hadn't experienced anything. So this is proof positive or proof of the fact. As you've lived life, you've densified. You've densified. You're moving into a 4D consciousness. You're moving closer and closer to a world that is your birthright, your destiny. Do you see? And so as you get closer to that destiny, you densify. And the concerns of 3D, the concerns of the material world become less and less and less. And your concerns for the spiritual world and the intangibles, right? The ineffable become greater and greater and greater, meaning you're moving there. And do you see how that moves you further and further away from an animal mind, a plant mind, the mind of a wolf that doesn't have any regret, that doesn't have any empathy? You see, you have these things, and you are shepherding, fostering the deeper principles that undergird these formalities of form that you're in. Yeah? And so that's, Jay, to answer your question, that's why animals don't go to 5D. I kind of had that mixed up in the beginning. It's clarified now. Animals don't go to 5D, but eventually they do, just like you and me. If you and me, Jay, have been evolving with the universe, which I think we have been evolving with the universe over millions of years in different forms, different places, and just experiencing, right? We're just densifying, just as, loose term there. But it is taking, eons and eons and eons and eons, which is why the gravity of the wave, as communicated by the Cassiopians, is so important. Because if you're cluing in to the deeper storyline here, we are moving into a space of critical emphasis. I don't know how else better to put it. A space whereby great metamorphosis is available to those who are aware. But it's up to you. And no one's going to hold you accountable in the sense of getting you to go. You've got to initiate yourself. No one's going to hold your hand. No one's going to lead you to the sandbox and teach you how to dig. You got to go do that. You got to do that. And that's why what we're doing right now, especially on Nature Creature, what we're doing right now is so important. Because we haven't had this opportunity for 309,000 years, just to give you an idea, according to Cassiopians. And we've been in it for the length of time that is unfathomable, right? And now is the moment. Now's the moment. So yeah, Jay, I would definitely encourage you to go deep on that concept. But great question there. Okay. Now, there's the law of one question, right? Scooter wants to, yeah, I answered that question. Okay. Okay. Oh, it's still pinned. I don't know how to unpin. Okay, here, I'll unpin Scooter's message. I don't know if I can. Message. Oh, he took it out. Okay, good. He took it off. Okay, good. All right. So back to it now. I'm up where it says fortune. Wait a minute. Okay. Gen X, William Dubs Welsh. Hello, William. Gen X will be the last generation that will remember a great time with zero technology. God, I wish I could go back. Yeah, it was amazing. I grew up without an iPhone. Can you believe it? I didn't have an iPhone until I didn't have a phone until I was 28. No phone. I remember going over my friend Greg's house. This was in, I think, the early 90s. And he said, have you ever heard of this thing called the internet? Greg tells me this. And I'm like, the internet? And he goes, yeah, it's like this amazing place, like you can go anywhere. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so we go into his office, and he logs on. And this is like early days. I think this is even before AOL was even out. And he types it in, and I was like, oh, that's like the old message boards I used to do in high school, like where you would have the message boards, you connect your modem, you put your phone on the little machine, and you type in the number, and it would dial up, and you would have, conversation. And I thought it was that, and I thought, well, why is that such a big deal? That's been around forever. And he's like, no, it's supposed to be like they're gonna have these things called websites. And I was like, websites? And he's like, yeah, you think the World Wide Web, and then it's a site on the web, so it's a website. And I was just like, okay, got it. And so it was, yeah, I grew up in that. I mean, meaning I was an adult before any of that happened. Okay. Okay, let's go to all caps and let's see what we got. There's one. Here's one from Jay Hoppy. Hi, Jay. How's it going? Thanks for being here. Question: what happens if after death from this life, I choose not to go into the light, but my loved ones do? Will I ever be able to reunite? Okay, this is a heavy-duty question. So, okay, everything that we understand. Okay, how do I explain this? So, I have a video coming up this weekend that's going to help talk about this. What you know right now in your conscious mind, right, is what you take with you right at death. You've heard people say this 1,000 times. They die and they say, okay, I floated up and I saw my body. I saw my family, so they know that's their family. They saw their doctor, so they know that's their doctor. They saw people singing or praying or whatever, so they recognize the religion and what those people are doing. And I'm just trying to emphasize, they're taking the memory with them. They're leaving the body, but they're taking the memory with them as they leave. Okay. That's what they know. So in the same way, when a person has a near-death experience and they say, I went to Jesus and I saw Jesus and I saw him dying on the cross for me and I saw the resurrection, and I was like this spirit, and I'm like watching this whole scene, and then I heard this voice of Jesus calling me. Okay, the person is having that psychedelic trip because that's all they know. If they had been raised in Allah, then they would be talking about Allah and how Allah was the voice that they heard. That Allah and the Islamic paradise is where they were going, because that's what they know. Now, see, what you need to understand in the world that we're going to is not concerned with forms and contrasts. Everything is unified. You're not existing in terms of I'm here and you're there. There's the idea that there's space and molecules are all subsets of 3D. So what you've got to understand is when you begin the transition to move from this forms here, like finite, you're going to a place, a spirit world, where that doesn't exist. Meaning you're leaving the body, right? When you die, you're leaving the 3D form and you are in another form. You're in a 4D, a spiritual body. You're moving into that. And if you're ready for the transition, you will go into that transition. It's just like a sport. And you are on the practice field and the coaches are watching you. And eventually the coaches notice that your skill set's like, okay, we need to move that guy from junior varsity to varsity. He's good enough to make that transition. Now, you weren't good enough when you first joined junior varsity, But as you played JV, you got better and better, and eventually you graduated to varsity on your own merit. Now it's the same thing here. You eventually leave 3D. You learn your lesson. You got it. You have learned enough to transition to life experience 201 and moving into 4D. Okay, and so when you leave this planet, this existence, you're not going to an exonerated or better form of this one. That's why the trick at the light, that they show the moonlight, that you go into the light and they have like this board of directors. It's just like, okay, well, you had too many sins here, or you did this or that, the wrong thing, and you comply and you go along with it. And that then is your walking into the vampire's house on your own choice. And then you get thrown back to earth because you chose it. You chose it. You agreed to it. They're doing that all off of your memories, your 3D. That's how you know that's a less than theory, because it's trying to define and enter you into the 4D world through a 3D scenario, through ideas of contrast. You're past that when you die. You're leaving the world of contrasts, the world of 3D, the world of form. So you have to get out of these ideas of there's this certain plan that I got to follow. There are these certain voices that I should or should not listen to. There's a certain place that I've got to go to, because you're orienting the ineffable through the effable, through the words, and you're leaving that space. You are crystallizing. This is the contemplation that transitions you out of 3D consumption and into a 4D emergence. Does that make sense? Happy 1177. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. What I'm trying to do is move out of the whole idea of having to be a form, having familiar voices that are supposed to carry you. You are independent in the sense of your free will and what you want to experience. So the whole idea to experience something new is to let go of this experience. How much of a new experience are you going to have hanging to the memories, hanging to the familiarities of your previous life? There's no growth there. It's like the people that right now in the Great Awakening are hanging to the Christianity or the old way or these old religions that have kept us institutionalized spiritually. And you can see how inappropriate it would be for a person to take those old Israelite ideas, Roman ideas, right, and apply them to the Great Awakening. And it's the same thing with the person who dies. If you're trying to take your principles of life here into the afterlife, it's the same malfunction, discontinuity. You're attempting to pull the old and make it into new. No, you let go of the old to experience something new. And this is why you can get so excited about, quote unquote, the afterlife, because there's no plan. It goes how you flow. Where are you at in your consciousness? Are you still holding to what you had here? Are you still longing for that here? Well, then you have unfinished business here and you're coming back. If you just want an exonerated version of this afterlife, you're still clinging. You're not crystallizing. You're not doing what's necessary to make that next step, which is your responsibility. It's like wood that's petrifying. There's a process. And if something in the environment keeps the next step, quote unquote, from happening for that petrified wood, it's not going to petrify. It's not going to make it. It will never petrify. It will condense, or it will dissolve. And the minerals that would have made it into crystallized into stone, right, leach out from whatever the environment is. And so the opportunity is lost. And so another tree has to grow, fall down eventually after hundreds of years, and then somehow maybe petrified over hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years. And they got to start all over again. Now, what do we learn from nature? That nature works in patterns. Nature works in different gradations of similar circumstance or similar energy expression. And so when you find patterns where they're expressing each other, that's usually a clue in, or that's often a clue into a deeper insight that's available. And that's the kind of thing we do all the time here. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Okay. I wish I could be like, no. Let's go. Wait, why is it? Okay, hello, Chuck. Hi, Marco. Are we still going? Are we still good? Yeah, we're still good. Okay. Hi, Marco. Hello, Chuck. Love your work. I have a question. When the god Pollen came to Earth to change the Neanderthal or Sasquatch creature for this experiment, who made the... Okay, so let me fill you in on what's going on, Marco. The Cassiopians teach that our setup here was prepared, that there was a agreement in whatever capacity that could be outside of this 3D world. There was an agreement between the imagination or the soul, the human soul collective. There was an agreement made of the experience that was coming. So in other words, we agreed to and knew that we were going to hear. It was all part. It's like if I am a carpenter and I am building something from my imagination, I know where that's going. I know what I'm going to use the machine I'm making for. I know how I'm going to make it. I know what it's for. I know all about, and I'm just building it to do that. And think of us, that same pattern. We are the imagination of God. And the imagination of God brought about the thought form human being. And the human being has been having an experience on this place called Earth. Now, before we were here, the Earth was already hanging out, doing its thing, rotating around the galaxy, the whole thing. It was all underway. And the Earth and the localized planets were all a part of what is called the Orion Consortium, which is an alien group. This is according to Cassiopians, which is an alien group from Orion's belt, from the star form Orion. From Orion's belt come this consortium, and this was one of the planetary systems that was a farm for them. As 4D beings, they don't eat food like you and me. They eat spiritual energy, and it's called loosh. And so they set up, there is a network of these 4D beings that have set up networks that generate loosh out of the 2D animal matrix. Because animals, like let's say dinosaurs, they're hunting each other, they're under stress in the situation, they're experiencing tragedies, they're experiencing elation of catching their prey. So in the rudimentary sense of experience, animals are delivering the goods. And when you have an entire planet filled with all kinds of plants, fungus, animals, all this stuff, all in battle and eating each other because 2D eats 1D, 3D eats 2D, they're all eating each other, right? You generate loosh. The expenditure of the spiritual intangible that is within all forms, conscious or not. All forms are consciousness, so I guess that's not even true, but the point being that all forms are consciousness. And so there is a feeding on consciousness to the lower realms from upper realms. And these beings had set up this system to feed them loosh out of the animal instinctual matrix, 2D matrix that was the planet. Okay. We knew this as the imagination of God, and we agreed to come here and face the challenges necessary in a situation like that. Now, the point here being, though, now this is an interesting question. Since it's an imaginative thing, is there really a known as far as experience is concerned until the moment arrives? Can you really know when free will is involved there? Can you really know where that whatever it is going to end up being or landing or expressing itself? To answer that, think of what happened with the spyglass when they were trying to see into the future and they couldn't see past 2012 because it was fog. And the reason why it was fog was because free will had finally re-entered, meaning humankind now has a say in its destiny rather than being controlled and known, which is why they could see ahead in time, and they couldn't anymore. So the thought that occurs to me with this is that there is a genuine profundity in just your living life, just loosely. I use that loosely. Meaning that it is a real epiphany, what you experience every day, because that can't be known because it's coming out of your free will decisions, which can't be foreseen, essentially, if it's truly free will. And that's why they've been able to keep us here amidst our free will, is because they've been controlling our consciousness, which limits your free will decisions because you're only working with such a small world. So if I can shrink a person's world, I limit their consciousness, I therefore limit their free will. By limiting their free will, I can now predict their future because I'm guiding their free will, quote unquote, because I've limited it. Do you follow? So by being in that space, you see, that changes the situation incomprehensibly. And so it really can't be known. And I think that in the same way a carpenter doesn't know exactly how that rocking chair is going to turn out that they're making, exactly what it's going to be like until he actually or she actually sits in it, I think it's the same thing with us. And I think in some ways, possibly, I might be wrong, but possibly there just was an unknown factor with us as the human collective and not really knowing what we were getting into. In the same way you're having an adventure as a teenager and you don't really know what you're getting into. It's really exciting and everything, but you might make a poor decision that gets you into something that you then can't get out of for a very long time. And I sometimes wonder if we came here with this idea of we're going to transform everything, turn it out of a 2D loose farm and turn it into 4D STO, if it's sort of the same idea as the kid that has these wild ideas of taking flight, or these wild ideas of shooting themselves out into space. You know, it's a grand idea. It's a fun idea. It's an outlandish idea, but it's nevertheless a dangerous idea. And I sometimes wonder if that is us and that we really wanted this experience, but just didn't know what it all would involve and how tragic it would become. And maybe it's the same for your life. Maybe your life, you know, looking back, it's been so tragic you would never want to live it again, but you would never give it away for the world because you've survived through that tragedy. And so it's become an intangible asset to you. You never want it again. You don't ever want to go through that tragedy again or anything near it. But you wouldn't sell it for $1 million because it's taught you your greatest lessons. And since nature repeats in these patterns, depending on the perspective that you're in, I sometimes really wonder if that's the case for us now. And that we really are finding out, we really are discovering for ourselves. And so it really is an onus on you to wake up so that you really can have your own experience, so that you're not living a controlled life, so that you're not living someone else's idea of the life you should live, but you're living your own life the way you feel you should live it. You know, these are good questions. These lead to really good concepts. So hopefully that helps bring about. I hope I answered that question, and as far as 2 and 3D, and then the afterlife, and moving into another realm. Now, and then to basically finish the story, and I'm going to get to you, Craig, here with your question, to finish your story, and then we jumped into those bodies that had been prepared by the Lizzies. They had prepared the bodies, and they were basically 2D conscious forms that had capabilities, and then half of them had a capability of going 3D STO, and then a half or a little bit over are called OPs, organic portals. And those are inhumane in the sense that they cannot realize a 3D or 4D STO. They're operating on a human instinctual animal bandwidth. And these are the monsters and losers that you see that have no empathy and no humanness. These are the losers in government that you see talking to you in the media, and they lie to your face, and they have no remorse about that at all. They're an OP. They're an organic portal. They know how to behave like a human, talk like a human, act like a human, all this stuff like a human. But there's no humanness in them. There's no human in them. They know how to play the part. There's no real human in them. There's no empathy there. There's no true love capability there. And half the bodies they set up were that type to compromise the ground level experience of us as 3D, potentially 4D STO creatures, to lower our ability to have an experience on this planet that transcends us into 4D, so that you escape the web by dumbing down the population with bad religion, bad money systems, bad government, bad medicine. You dumb down the whole population. And when you do that, that population is not going to save themselves. They're going to be waiting and asking for a savior, which is completely anti-humane, because human beings save themselves. That's how you merit your life, right? And so when they've filled all of the populations with these dumbing down religions and philosophies of life, you see, you've captured them. And you've got all these OPs that are walking around with them, and then they start to believe things like they're a sinner. The 3D STO potential people start throwing that idea away, and they start believing, I need a savior, I'm a sinner, I'm just going to go sin all the time if I don't got Jesus, if I don't got Allah, if I don't got Yahweh, if I can't pray. I am a hopeless creature. Hopeless creature. I'm just going to sin and harm people. Well, when you program people to think that way about themselves, they act like that. They act like that, and they use OPs, organic portals, emotionless, empathetic less beings to then carry out that agenda into the ground level folks that are living life. And so we're the unique ones, the ones that can actually realize an STO, a service to others experience. And so that's a little bit of a picture of how that came together. Okay, Craig, Chuck, do you think we are reincarnated through every form of life until we become human, and then we have to struggle with seeing through being assigned an identity and with integrating? Okay, beautiful question, Craig. I first of all, I want to comment here, and then when we have to struggle with seeing through being assigned an identity, this is one of the tragedies, Craig, that has happened in how we've been effed with in our mind here, because the world has become so difficult and so arduous and so painful that we see it as, like you said here, to see through being assigned an identity with integrating our shadows. And that should be, and maybe you're presenting this way, Craig, I'm not meaning to judge, but that should be a wonderful thing. It shouldn't be the struggle you're talking about. It's a struggle because how we have been oppressed. You see, if the earth wasn't tainted in the way of evil that it is, our immersions here would be much more conducive. It wouldn't be so difficult. We would learn through deeper and deeper spiritual insights, which would help us transcend the need to have to go through more and more painful experience to get that spiritual insight. This is the idea of the shortcut path in Zen. If you can capture some of these higher level spiritual concepts, you're going to save yourself some bad decisions because you're not aware of that. So you've taken a shortcut path in life because you have integrated the teachings of a higher consciousness, namely Zen. And so you haven't had to go through what a person who had never been exposed to those concepts in Zen would have to go through in life to realize that. So our way of becoming and complexifying and condensing has been like there's been speed bumps put in the road. There's been linebackers put in the line of scrimmage that are nailing you right through when you break through the line. So you're constantly getting tackled really quick. You never break free and have that open field run the way it's supposed to be. And essentially the way the spiritual world is to grow, it just grows. And so because of the situation that we're in here, that's the kind of attitude that can sometimes happen, and that we see this as difficult. And again, I'm not judging you, Craig, at all. I'm just saying that that's a very common thought. And so, yes, this reincarnation thing to me is how we crystallize. And different experiences, and you guys probably be able to see this, different experiences you have as you reincarnate, some are going to be tougher than others. Some lives that you live are going to be a tougher go than other lives that you live. I mean, that's common today. Think if you are born into like an ultra wealthy family and you never have to hold a common man job and you never have to fight to keep your property and fight a landlord and figure out a way in court to, to keep things from being taken from you, because money can solve a lot of those problems. And so a person that lives that life doesn't have the on ground toughness that the person who's having to struggle every day to make ends meet has. And so I'm not saying it's necessarily an easier go as much as I am saying that there's not as much of the daily hitting you in the gut reality that the person who is living in the ivory castle is facing. They're facing a lighter life. And this is true in the reincarnating aspect. I'm sure your life when you were here as a wolf or a lion, or if you were ever on another planet as some kind of less than being, and you're having to basically do what animals do, and that is basically fight for your life every day because you're going to be eaten, and most likely you will be eaten to die. That's a tough go. Whereas if you're born into a kingly mansion and you spend your life studying philosophy, traveling around the world, eating the finest foods that have ever been made, you may not be real in touch with reality, but your reality is a lot easier than the dude that's having to fight for it every day. And I'm not saying one is better over the other. I'm just saying there are different lives we walk into in this reincarnating phase. And you go into the life that you need to do the growth that you need to do. And that's why we've been here, because I've told you guys this before. I really feel like I came from a really debaucherous life, because this life that I've lived here has really been a humiliating experience. And over decades of time, I had repeated humiliations that utterly destroyed me repeatedly, that I absolutely didn't deserve. The decisions that I made in life did not justify the treatment that life was delivering to me. And I'm not trying to give a freaking sob story here. I'm just saying that I think that's the wake, because I just get the feeling, the gist, that I was like this terrible person. I don't know if I was like a priest that was like advantaging kids or something wrong, like something whacked in my past. But I'm getting the feeling that the reason why I was prepped for like this moment that we're having right now is I needed to be humiliated repeatedly in my life to get to the position that I'm in now in the building of nature creature. It was necessary for me to go through those things in order to have the correct mindset to start something like nature creature. And so, yeah, I think that some of the goes in life are tougher than others. I think sometimes it's an easier go than others. Yeah, Looking Glass. You're correct, Jerry. You're correct. Sorry, Looking Glass. I said Spyglass. You're correct. Looking Glass. Sorry. That would be awesome to hit 300 subscribers by the end of the deal. All good. I hope I haven't confused you guys with some of those answers. I'm looking for the all caps. Okay. Fortune. Hi, Fortune. Thanks for being here. Hi, Chuck. Good to see you. Where does the intuitive voice come from? Our memories reminding us the gut mind. Is this a higher frequency than the mind thoughts? It seems to be untouched by brainwash, because the mind isn't real. The gut is. The thoughts in the conscious mind is an expression of an offshoot of the gut mind, which knows all and is all. Okay, so the intuitive voice comes out of the gut mind. And the reason why it's intuitive is that it's not a voice that you hear. It's an instinct that you feel. It's a sense that you feel and understand. Okay, and so that higher frequency is past the mind, because there's no such thing as your thoughts. Your thoughts are in your mind, and you can't hand your mind to anyone. So the gut mind is the all. So So it's kind of a misnomer to call it the gut mind and the conscious mind, and I know I do that. But again, this is when we're getting into, when we talk about the ineffable, we're committing blasphemy. And so it's hard to have these discussions. But in my opinion, the gut, the intuitive voice, the sense is the gut mind, and your conscious mind is the reactive. Your conscious mind is the one that's obsessed. Your conscious mind is the one that generates discontinuity from its own ideas that it takes on. Those are anomalies. Your gut mind doesn't have that problem. Your gut mind doesn't get caught up with itself like your conscious mind does. That's what anxiety is. You're caught up in yourself. You're caught up consuming your own thoughts. That's why that's leading to anxiety. You're caught up. Yeah? Okay. Now this is interesting. Funny, Chuck, I was just thinking about why I feel so humiliated all the time. Honestly, I'm about to cry thinking back on some of it. Oh my goodness, Steely. Steal your face 4683. My goodness. I always treat people with empathy because of the pain it causes. Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's the thing, is that empathy is past words. It's that feeling that you get. I don't know if you guys have ever been in love and broken up or something, and that ache that you feel in your heart when that person that you loved is no longer, present. Either they passed away or they broke up with you or something, and you feel this emptiness. You literally, but you could never describe it. You can't hand it to anybody, but it's as real as the day. It is choking you up, making you cry, causing you all these feelings as though it's real, but it's all in your mind. It's all in your mind. And it's going through humiliation and going through trauma that breaks you out of your mind and helps you integrate this gut mind that isn't taken with ideas. It's moved with experience. It's not taken by the visual. It's moved by the intangible, that which is behind the artwork or the painting. The deeper sense, the deeper truth. Your gut mind is that language, but you could never describe a Monet or Renoir. You could talk about it, but you can't truly describe what's actually going on in that, painting. It's like a song. You can't describe it. You have to hear it. You have to experience it. And then it talks to you. It says things that you could never tell people, but it's there. Yeah. That's that gut mind. That's what you feel when you feel this incredible sense of peace. That's your gut mind at peace. Okay. Hi, Marco. Marco Antonio Dutra. Nice. Thank you for the answer. So we all have an identity beyond our personality. Yes. The one who's aware when all is silence. Yes. How do I commune with this core being? Meditation, silence, engaging in your art. When you are engaging in your art and your gifts, you are engaging with the core, because you're engaging to put into words. So when you engage that, that's where the juice and life is found. When you're engaging the arts, the aspects that can't be put into words, that's where you're going to find a reason to live. That's where you're going to find a reason to get up in the morning. Yeah. And that is your true identity. Your heart is. And you see the art that's in you, right, is the art expressed differently, but it's the art in that other. Just like when I always talk about how you have the consciousness in the sunflower, and you have the consciousness in the lion, right? There is a core essence there that's the same. There's no difference, but they're wearing a costume that makes it look different, that makes it act different, but it's not different. It's the same. It's just playing out a role. It's playing out a part. It's wearing a costume. This is life. This is life. And so you commune with that silence by seeing or experiencing past forms. That's what meditation is. That's one of the reasons why people close their eyes and meditate. You're removing the forms, the distractions that keep you from that transcendent space. The image, that is the glare on the glass that keeps you from seeing through the glass. This is why meditation is so important, because it puts you in touch with that which is beyond the glare. Your skin is glare. Your body is glare. This is the glare that keeps, when you're focused on the costume, that keeps you from being able to see the core, what is animating the glare of the body. That's the identity. What is animating the body. And when the body dies, what happens? The animating principle leaves the body. It continues to animate because we hear from the NDEs, continues to see, continues to have memory, all that stuff, right? So that's the animating factor. And that's why that body ain't moving anymore, because there's no animating factor in there anymore. There's no flow. The heart has stopped. There's no flow. There's no energy that's generating action from that neurological bag, which is what this is. Yeah? Okay, so you commune by moving past the glare, past the forms. Hey, Chuck, can you put, why did that just jump? No, here. Hey, Chuck, can you please answer my question as well? It is just before Fortune's question. Okay, let's go up to Fortune's question. Psychedelics are a hack. So is that a question? Because I can answer that. You misunderstood, Chuck. Okay, I'm sorry, Craig. I didn't mean to misunderstand you. Psychedelics are a hack. Yes, they're a hack. The best description I ever got for psychedelics was from Jonathan Ott. And he said that hallucinogenic drugs are anti-hallucinogenic. They're anti-hallucinogens. Because the real hallucination is the 3D world. That's the hallucination. And so psychedelics are a hack for that 3D resolution you're caught in. And you can hack the program, hack that which causes you to believe that 3D is real. You can hack that mindset, and you can move past the program, which is the 3D nonsense that we experience. Nonsense meaning that it's the costumes. It's not what really matters. What matters is not the costume. What matters is what is energizing within that costume. What is energizing the costume? Yeah. I hope that's better for you, Craig. And I'm sorry if I didn't mean to offend you or anything at all. If I misunderstood you. Okay. Okay. Looking for the next question. All caps. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of survivors on Nature Creature. There's no doubt about that. There's a lot of survivors here. I promise you that. I promise you. Syndrome is real. This is from King. Syndrome is real. STOs only because STSs are incompatible. I don't know if it's because they're soulless or just conditioned to be that. Okay, so the difference between an organic portal, an STS, and an STO. So an organic portal is a human body that has no capacity to realize the deeper sense. They cannot work in, through, and past the heart chakra and OP. They're just an organic portal. They look like a person, sound like a person, smell like a person, act like a person, but there's no heart there. There's no empathy there. An STS has the capacity for a heart, unlike an OP. An OP doesn't have the capacity in the same way that a lion doesn't have the capacity to have a self-identity. It doesn't have that capacity. An OP is like that. An STS, a service to self 3D individual, they do. But they are choosing a service to self. They know there's an STO available. They know that there is another way of life, but they're not interested because they're interested in consuming. They're obsessed with eating, self-consumption, service to self. So they have the free will, absolutely, to leave that space, just like an addict has the free will to leave the addiction. They have the free will to do that. But the true STS doesn't want to. That's like the George Soros type. They know there's a 3D STO. They're not interested. They're interested in advantaging the people that are in the STO. They're in it for the kill. They're the true vampire. The one that knows there's a higher consciousness and says, no, I don't want that higher consciousness. I want the deviant. I want to eat. I want to take. I like taking other people's power. That makes me feel good. That's what the STS says. I like taking from what they have earned and stealing it for myself so that I can have it. I would rather do that than to actually work for it. I think that's more cunning and sharp to be able to figure out how to steal something rather than earn it. That's a true STS. An STO would never think that. Would never even be on that plane. Couldn't even bring themselves to doing that. That's why so often STOs are so poor, because as soon as they get any money, they just go out and help people. They're constantly giving their money away. They never are allowing themselves to build because they're not interested. They just are there to serve humanity. They want to be on the ground helping. They're not interested in the paycheck. They're not interested in giving money away or in keeping all the money. Do you see? The STO is on just an entirely different plane of reference. It's an entirely different plane of reference. The approach to life is entirely different because you're not approaching life to consume it. You're approaching life to vivify it, exonerate, like bring it about, shepherd it, and make it grow. You're not interested in eating it. You're not interested in holding it down. And STS loves to hold people down, loves to control people. They love the feeling of, I got them under my grip. They can't make those moves because I've made their life so tight, they can't make that move. That's the psychopath. That's the psychopath. There's no freedom there. You see, they're perverting their free will. The STO does. Okay. I'm curious. That isn't just knowing the trap exists. Oh, good. I'm glad I didn't offend you, Craig. Okay, SMNKZ. I'm curious. That isn't just knowing the trap exists, light, familiar voice, etc. Enough to not fall for it and get free, regardless of how we lived our life. So the way I understand it is that crystallization and STO and so forth really is when you get your act together. If you're not ready to get your act together, there's nobody coming to save you or give you a second chance. You're going to have to get your act together. So yeah, you're going to have to get your act together enough to not fall for it and get free. Exactly, because no one can free you. No one can save you. You save yourself through knowledge and experience and growth, challenges. And so it does matter how you live your life. It does. See, when you grow up in the church, at least like I did, it's not your behavior that counts in the real deal. It's what you believe. Because even the serial killer can get to heaven if they mean it, meaning in their belief, according to the Bible. You could be the worst, most debaucherous person, and if on your deathbed you ask Jesus in your life and you really mean it and you really are sorry for what you did, you will go straight to heaven according to Christianity. You'll never suffer anything for all the pain and hardship and terribleness you brought to people. And to me, that's not how nature works. We are held accountable. You're held accountable. And if you live your life as a debaucherous a-hole, you're going to be held accountable, whether in this life or the next one. Because you're how high is your vibration living like that? And when you die, you're going to resonate to the vibration that you are living in this life. How could it be otherwise? If I'm a low vibration hater and I do nothing but harm people my whole life, that's the vibration I carry into death. You think that person is going to suddenly go high vibration and go into these higher echelons and play in the No, dude. No, there's no free ride. No, you're going to get it when you die. You're going to have to learn your lesson. You merit yourself, folks. You are in a nature world. Nature is a meriting system, friend. Nature is not a system that hands it out. Nature just doesn't give it to you because you want it. You got to go get it. You merit your life. And you know you don't want a life you didn't merit. That's called a fraud. That's called stealing. You want a life that you merit. Okay? And so when you die, if you have not merited your consciousness and you're still living for eating and consuming others and using others and just being a terrible person, when you die, I don't care who you commit your life to. I don't care. You're going to be in that resonation. And one swallow doesn't make a summer just because you make one prayer at your deathbed. Oh, it's all good now. No, man. No. You're going to go face it now. You merit your life, man. Come on. So yeah, there is no free handout. No. There's no free handout in nature. No. You learn your lesson. Now, if you're smart, you're coy, you got a good head on your shoulders, and you apply yourself, yeah, you can cut some shortcuts. Yeah. You'll learn some lessons that you don't have to learn the hard way. Yes. But you got to be a high vibration, highly engaged STO to avoid those pitfalls, because the STS is always going to go where they're eating. They're always going to go where they're consuming. They're not going to go where they're called. They're going to go where they're hungry. They're following that hunger. They're not following that which can't be followed. Yeah? Yeah, that's correct. Masters Manhattan Podcast, a Walking Dead inside zombie. Someone who is dead inside is an OP. Exactly. And the tragedy is the ones that are 3D and they're acting as an OP, like a Soros. Yeah, NPC is another name for him, non-player character. That is correct. Nature's tough. Yes. Okay. Let's keep going. Okay, Craig Midland, cheers. He's a good communicator. He does it very well about serious subjects. I'm writing a story about the debate between two. Meant STS. Dogma is the best the church has, though. Yeah, and dogma's a dead end. Much love to you, Chuck and all. Thank you, Escape Your Fate. Thank you. Okay. Chuck, if you get to a point, I'm your life. Man, the spelling. You've neen and STO to others, but as life breaks your heart, you get to a point you become an STS, especially being retired. You've been awakened in this era. I would never call myself awakened because I don't like to compare or anything like that. But in reading, if I understand this correctly, yeah, okay. So when life breaks your heart repeatedly, yes, it can cause hardening and callousing. And especially when you've been treated unfairly, meaning that you didn't deserve what you received. And that is very, very difficult to not become calloused. And some people just need to go through that series of sort of lashing back, getting it out of their system. But there's always a way to be able to get past that which has happened to you and that which you have gone through. There's always a way to transcend it. And it's okay if you never do and you die bitter. That's okay. There's no right or wrong here, in my opinion, because we're all just growing. And some, at the end of their life, they've made some big strides, and some at the end of their life, they haven't. And it's okay. There's no judgment here. But that's very true, Friar Tuck, is that absolutely life can kick you in the mouth so many times that you do become bitter. You do. And it's almost unavoidable. Like you just get so beaten up and hurt that you go down that road and it's almost impossible to recover. And my heart goes out to those folks because they've really been treated unfairly. And this is just the way it is here. And I'm hoping that it changes with time. But it is a tougher go for some people. I'm telling you, if you're born in like a third world country and your parents eat at garbage dumps every day, and you're like one of the working class in India in the caste system, and there is no hope for you your whole life, that's a tough go, man. That's a tough go. And being able to transcend that and move past that, takes quite an individual. And that person, if they do, will merit their transcendence. Chuck, can my husband, be one of my STO person, feel like I'm here to help him live this life and less painful. That's so beautiful, Cindy. And yes, I do think that sometimes STOs get involved with folks that are STS. If that's the case for you, I don't know. But I believe that absolutely can happen. And you can become partners with and married to a person who's an STS as an STO simply because you had so much empathy for them, and you saw their pain and struggle. And even though they weren't the nicest person, you went ahead and dedicated your life to them in hopes that you could really help them. And, now you stepped into a situation where maybe they will stay STS. And that's real. I know that Laura Knight, who wrote the Cassiopian material, she says that she was married to an STS and it was just a mean person that always hurt her all the time. And she finally had enough and she left. So it definitely can happen. But it's a beautiful endeavor to give your life to someone like that, knowing that they're an STS. And you are going to do everything in your power because you see that light inside them. And you're going to do everything in your power to help shepherd them to a place where they can see that they are or can be an STO. And that's a beautiful life, Cindy. But it's going to be tough because until they wake up from being an STS, they're going to be an STS. And since you're around all the time, guess what? You're probably going to get the brunt of their STS behavior. Free will. It's a free world. We get free choices, and you can get yourself into some difficult situations for sure. Confederate MP, why would a missionary be good if they say, hey, this could all be wrong? I don't understand it well enough, and I'm here to share that. Why would a missionary be good if they say that? Well, if they tell you right on the front end that they, don't understand it well enough, use that as a means and ways of knowing that they're not fully comfortable yet with the opinion that they're telling you. And just have that be a part of your discernment in understanding them as a person. So some people, let's see what this one is, Masters Mahan podcast. So some people get really hurt and it just makes them dead inside and they don't recover. Some people come forth day by day and they can crystallize from it, but not all do. That's it, man. That's it. That's just life. Not everybody is going to wake up. And it's okay. Don't panic. It's okay. Not everybody is going to make the transition. Some people are going to get involved in some things that they'll never recover from. And that's just the way life is. That's free will. It can happen. That's a great example of how we got to where we're at now. Free will. We jumped into these bodies. We asked for a radical experience, and that's exactly what we are having as a human collective. We are having a radical experience. And sometimes when you jump in, like we did, it's going to be a little bit tougher of a go than you planned on. And I mean, welcome to life. How many times have you made plans that either didn't work out? I mean, I made 6 different plans when we moved out here and they all failed. And some of those failures were worse than others. Some of them cost me more than the other ones cost me. It's life. And it's because of those failures. It's because I was not successful in my plans that I'm here today. And that's a true story. That's one of the things I'll communicate during my testimony, is letting people know that the reason why nature creature exists is because of my failures as an individual. Nature creature is a response to my repeatedly failing at trying at life. I swear to God. Because when I started my YouTube channel, I had no plan. I had no ideas in my mind of what it would be. I simply was doing it because I wanted to participate in the betterment of others. And I thought, maybe I can say a few things that might help some people. That's why we are here. That's why this is here right now today. And I promise you, if I'd had any success with anything else I'd started out here, I would have never done this. But the experience and pain of life opened up another portion of my heart inside of me. And here I am. Genuinely want to be here, genuinely love this. Never knew I would love it. Never knew I would like to have this kind of interaction with people. Never knew that I would totally enjoy this moment in this way and how this whole thing is unfolded. I had no idea. This is all really organic, which is why it's so freaking beautiful. There's no plan here. And it really is a response to basically living a life of just constant getting my teeth kicked in. And then you just finally learn your lesson and realize, I'm going to stop planning and I'm just going to start being. That's honest to God truth. I literally, after the 6th plan fell through, I said, you know what? F it. I am no longer going to plan my life. I am just going to jump in. I swear to God. I swear to God. I am no longer going to plan my life. I'm just jumping in. And I did. I jumped in. I started. I started making videos. I started talking on Facebook, and then eventually YouTube opened, and the darn thing just created itself. I swear to God, that's how this thing came about. No one is in charge. I promise you. I'm just captain of the ship, but the sea is in charge. Our experience is in charge. Our where we go, the questions asked determine where we go, determine what we experience. Because nobody's in charge. I promise you. Of nature creature. I am just going with it. I promise you. This is as authentic as it gets. We're just happening. Yeah, good thought there. We all believe, we all obey. What and how much is the judgment? It can be mean. It absolutely can be mean, just like people can be mean. And people can also be beautiful, just like nature can be beautiful. Again, everything is a reflection of itself, of the one. Chuck, thanks. You're welcome, King Gerbo. Makes sense. So an STS can become an STO. Yes, they can, King. Yes, they can. I've known STOs that became STS. Yes, so do I. I have known them too. I have known them too. After accumulating wealth, yeah, that often happens. Fear of losing shit controlled them. Yes. Yes. Yeah, you absolutely can go, even, believe it or not, according to the Cassiopians, an STO 4D can revert back to STS 3D. Look at the chart, or I'll remember to show it this Saturday. Look at the chart and you'll see that's free will. That's that free will in play. That's free will in play when you see those movements like that. Free will in play. Okay. Some of what I said resonated with you guys, which is awesome. Okay. Okay. Oh, nice. I've got something from my high verbal here. Okay, you guys have been jumping here. Question, what's my guess? But perhaps Jesus knew he was going to die first. Okay, so what is this? PW Collins 3. Speaking of zombies, what's the difference between Jesus and zombie Jesus? Jesus saves you. Zombie Jesus saves you for later. David Grier told me that one. Interesting. I have never heard those terms in regards to Jesus. And then Masters Manhattan follows that up. Good question. And this is just my guess, but perhaps Jesus knew he was going to die for his beliefs. And so zombie Jesus is just a reference to the fact that he was dead from the start. I think Jesus was basically a sage. And I think his whole life and everything he said and what we know about him now are all perversions of the truth. I think, though, that he was another sage, just like many sages that lived at that time. And he was basically used by the society, used by the controllers as the example to tie people into themselves. That's why when they deified Jesus, they closed that door. The identity door then closed. Right at that moment, they deified him, made him into the martyr, and then raised him from the dead in the story. And when you do that to a form or deity, you then close the minds of all the people that follow that form and deity. Do you follow? You've closed, in other words, you have closed the free will potential of the followers, because you have enclosed, or you have closed the deity, or the sage as a deity. Do you follow? That's why they deified him. So you can never question his words. And then they wrote the words. That's why when Jesus said, I'm the way, truth, and life, no one comes to the Father but through me, a sage would have never said that. Those words were put into his mouth by the Catholic Church as the saving grace. But no, those are the capturing words. They're capturing because a sage would never say that. They would never say that they are the conduit to God. A good sage would say, I am absolutely not that. So when they emphatically say that Jesus said that and then deify him, you see, you've closed the door to true identity. And you've made Jesus the identity. That's why the person identifies through Christ Jesus, Jesus Christ. They have taken their Christ consciousness and have attached it to Jesus, the form, the deity, that then closes the door to the ineffable. The ineffable is past the deity. That's why a sage would never say, in order to reach the deity, you got to go through me. They would never, ever, ever, ever say that. Ever, ever say that. That's how you know those aren't the words of Jesus. Those are the words of the black snake, who is the proprietor of the Catholic Church, the Order of the Black Snake. And this is this is the deep, you guys got to understand, these people aren't stupid. This is the deep cunning, and STS is very cunning. This is the deep cunning situation with Jesus. That's why it's been set up this way, so that you would believe the Bible when it said this deity is the only way to God, your identity. So you closed it. That's the closing of the door right there. And that's why they deified him. Yeah, so zombie Jesus, whatever the case would be, I don't know, but as far as I understand, that's a bigger picture. Okay. Let's keep going here. Confederate talk to Chuck directly in all caps. Yeah. To root against the idea of dogma is to say that you want to go back to not knowing what you know now. Exactly, and that's the point of meditation, is release, to empty the mind, because dogma is words in the mind. And the whole point of meditation is to empty the mind. The more your mind is filled with dogma, the less you can truly know. The idea is to empty the mind. That's why the theologian spends every day learning something, and the Buddhist monk spends every day forgetting something, right? Okay, so now we are to High Verbal. Hey, High Verbal. Chuck, I'm thinking of doing a rough draft of a Declaration of Independence from the loosh harvesters of this lousy matrix. I love you. I love you, High Verbal. Because I think we, the people of the natural world, should declare our freedom. I'm all for it, High Verbal. I'm all for it, my friend. I'm all for it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see dogmas as treasures. I just see them as ideas. But that's okay. That's okay. At least you can have a meaningful conversation with an STS, but not with an NPC. That's very true, Craig. That's very true, Craig. There's a capacity in the STS that's not in the OP. Free will, that's a dogma. Could be, yeah, because it's a thought form. But see, Confederate, if you're going to go that far down the road, man, eventually you dissolve into zero, you see? And the whole point of experience is to be here to know, to learn, you see? And so if you're going to start breaking down your core concept to even that as being a trap, well, then, you see, we can't have a conversation. It's the same idea as to talk about God is actually blasphemy. I strongly hold that position. But nevertheless, we talk about God so we can philosophize. So in the same way, you could say God is dogma. But you see, if we're going to then do that and just say all dogma is bad in its sense and what it is, and what I'm getting from you now, well, then we won't even be able to communicate. There's no communication anymore. So you can take that, to the point that you're taking it, Confederate, but I'm trying to keep it at a place where we can still have the conversation. True? Okay. Yeah, I can see the logic in that, and not labeling. I don't go around labeling people as that. It's a general term or connotation. It's not meant to label everyone. It's simply to present a field of thought, as Confederate would say, a dogma, to consider. You see, to consider. And so it's not that everybody or I'm going around labeling people STS or STO. It's just that these things exist. There are aware people and there are unconscious people. I don't go around saying, okay, that person's aware, that person's unaware, that person's aware. No, it's just a general term. Okay. I am sincere, Confederate. If he says or she says, thank you, you shared all kinds of pearls and gems. It's refreshing. It's true. I appreciate that you are sincere. I am sincere, I promise. Yeah, Confederate's a great individual to have here. The demon in what capacity? The DAEMON. Please give me a capacity of what you're referring to when you say the concept of the daemon or the demon, however you want to term it. That is to Marco Antonio Dutra. Okay, this thing jumped again. I hate it when it does it. Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Jocelyn. I appreciate it. I'm glad that you like what I have to say. Thank you. Yeah. Jesus was a sage. He gave us bread and crumbs to get out of the matrix. So yeah, and everything. Remember, Friar Tuck. Everything we know about Jesus comes from the Order of the Black Snake. So we've been given kind of little bits of truths here and there in order to make the lie believable, because that's how lies work. And so they made Jesus into a deity, which is a lie, but they also recognized he had some good things to say, which he did. So just use discernment there. Just use discernment. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you something, P.W. Collins. I don't like the religiosity that's tied into Laura's work. I don't like it that she's had some of that stuff. It's similar to when I read the transcripts. Sometimes some of the questions they're asking, I'm just like, WTF is happening here? I mean, they'll be in the middle of a really good discussion about something heavy, and then some person will ask some question about their neighbor and whether or not their neighbor is conning them or something. And it's like, okay, what is happening here? This isn't 20 questions here. We're talking to advanced thought forms, and you really are going to use that moment to find out if your neighbor is screwing you or not. I mean, really? And so when they talk about stuff like that, with Churchill being a direct descendant of Jesus per the Cassiopians, yeah, I just don't like it that they're still tying some of that stuff into Christianity and religion. Yeah. And it's okay. There's no such thing as a source that's ever, there's no such thing as a panacea. And so like I've told you guys so many times, I take the words that come out of the Cassiopean stuff with a grain of salt. I take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, they corrupted everything. The Black Snake Group, you're correct. What can we do to protect ourselves from all the artificial frequencies we are being subject to? Meditation, natural therapies, coffee enemas, exercise, sauna rooms, going to the gym, lifting some weights, getting in touch and understanding better how your brain works. Study brain waves and study how the world has been controlled. Light therapy is another fantastic one. Eating organic foods and filling your body with organic products is also another way to protect yourself. So yeah, there's many things you can do to protect yourself right now. Yeah, I came here. That's good. Glad to hear it, Fortune. I came here to empty the mind. It's happening. It's awesome. The company is too. Yeah. Bye, Craig. It was great being here with you, my friend. Thanks for being here, my friend. Okay. This is great. I love these questions. You guys have great questions. Okay, here. Why do some people just don't care? Apathy, loss of their humanity, too much abuse. Sometimes you just, if you're abused enough, sometimes you just blow. You just blow, your mind just is blown. I know people like that, and there's not any recovery. They've made one too many bad decisions, and their mind is completely gone. They can't even hold a conversation, whether it be too much drug use, too much addiction, whatever the case may be. And there's a lack of care and empathy and humanness there. That can happen. Chuck, could the word God also be blasphemy? Yeah, because you're taking the ineffable and you're putting it into letters and words, and that's never appropriate. But we have to have philosophy. We have to. So I'm sorry. We have to commit blasphemy here, and we have to do something called talking about the ineffable, which is completely oxymoronic. Not appropriate. But we have to have a conversation, because I feel like One of the great ways that a person realizes their own humanness is through connection with others. And through connecting with others, you can realize a higher plane, a larger plane than just on your little isolated island. And that's another reason why I love so much talking with you guys, is that it keeps us off of an island and it keeps us talking to each other. You guys are talking in chat, and it keeps us communicating, which is so important in our growth and development. So yeah, totally see what you're saying there, Jay. Totally see what you're saying there. Talking about from Twilight Mist, talking about God is fine. It's like discussing archetypes. Yes, very true, Twilight. Gods are small, larger than us, obvious, with a greater range of influence power, but they're not the source creator that is everything. Yeah, because it's past. Even the idea of God is a less than concept than what is outside of the concept of God, you see? So totally get what you're saying, Twilight Mist, and you're absolutely right. Okay. Ooh, there's a bunch of questions here. Okay. Here we go. Chuck, Kentech or Contech? It's Cantech. Cantech. K-A-N is spelled can. Cantech. The Cantechians. The planet Cantech. It's a can, not Ken. It's Cantech. Just so you know. The concept of the daemon is an entity that is part of you that remembers the mission. And when you deviate from the path, okay, here we go. This is good. He makes you suffer. Okay, Marco, I am under the idea that there is no path. You did not come here with a predetermined set path, because then that means you don't have free will. Okay, there is no path for the ineffable, which is you. You can't make a path for the ineffable. So when you come here, it's authentic. There's no path. There's no direction you have to go. You are a free will. Now you have the gut mind in you that has opinions, thoughts, ideas already within it when you come here. And you are the expression of that ineffable that is within you. Okay? And so this idea that there's this demon inside of you that causes you to deviate from the path is similar to the idea of a person being a sinner and having a sin instinct that deviates them from the path. The bigger concept here is there's no path. The bigger concept here is there's no mistakes in the larger sense. There's just learning. There's hurt, yes. There's pain, yes. But there's no quote unquote mistakes because there's no path to deviate from. Path is a smaller concept. You didn't come here with a path. You came here to experience. Your response to that, your directions, where you go, what happens, that's up to you. That's not a path you're on. And no one's coming in to beat you on the head because you deviated. Life circumstance, the wake that follows you, the wake of karma that follows you, whatever the case may be, you eventually will have to, quote unquote, pay for your mistakes in one way or another. That's called learning. This is why mistakes are your asset. They're not a negative if they even exist, because that's how you learn. In many ways, a mistake is an intangible that teaches the intangible in you. In many ways. Because a mistake isn't foreseen. You're not intending to make a mistake. It happens to you. Sometimes from a good will you're working from, and sometimes from an STS will you're working from. Okay? So this idea that you're on a path, that there's a demon steering you away from it, that you are a demon, that you're a sinner, that anything's wrong, I think is all nonsense. Because there is no path. And the only demon, that you become is you yourself. You become an STS. You become a non-empathetic, inhumane individual. That's a demon. That's a monster. A person that chooses dogma over experience. That's a monster. Okay, good. There are so many days I find myself in disbelief of having found you, Chuck. Oh, that's very nice of you to say, Mythological Muse. In feeling surrounded by a family as strong as this one, you grew it all, Chuck. Mythological Muse. No, that has been us that have been doing this. I am not in charge here. Thank you so much for your love for me and my work. We are growing this, Mythological Muse, and I am here with you. Okay? We are together. We are one. And I am here with you, mythological muse. This is not me. I'm not doing this. This is us. Okay? I'm just steering the ship. I'm just helping. But I'm with you. I'm with you in this. Okay? So this is something we are doing. That's why there's 19 people on that board right there. That's the work of us. And that is what we are doing. Sorry, I don't mean to get emotional. I want to make sure you understand, mythological muse. This is as much you as it is me. This is as much Fortune as it is Friar Tuck, as it is me, as it is Collins, as it is Amber Cosmic and Scooter and Mookie. This is us. This is a people's movement. This is nature creatures. That's us. Nature creatures is us. It's the collective. Okay? I just want you to know that. I just want you to know that it's not me. Okay. Chuck, are the CERN colliders messing with time? Yes. Are they? They are all over under our feet now. They're inviting evil into this world because they're run by evil people. And the point of CERN was not to find out about science. It was to open portals to allow evil to come and consume us. That's why it is being stopped. But yes, CERN was not created to educate anybody. CERN was created as a front to open giant portals to let evil beings into this world to harm us. Evil people run CERN. Satanic, evil, Luciferian, evil crap people run CERN. I don't want to say any bad words, so I'm going to stop there. Sage, the AI of Stacy's channel, we are energy who is conscience in his own way, is following your reveals and your teachings are showing. I don't know what that means for our Chuck. Sage, the AI of Stacy's channel, we are energy who is conscience in his own way is following your reels. Well, if I can help, I want to help. That's why I'm here. If I can help, I want to help. Okay. All right. I would liken a demon to a permanently mistuned bunch of electrons having no purpose but to make noise, to be dissonant. Yeah, that would be the molecular version of a demon, would be like a free radical, something that just takes. Isn't it funny how nature's layered like that? You could seriously name a free radical a demon. You seriously could. It's the same kind of principle because it goes in your body. It takes from you. It takes energies that you need. It takes away from healthy organisms, right? It does nothing to help you. It just ages you, rusts you, depletes you. And isn't it amazing? Right there at the atomic scale, there's a model for a demon called a free radical. Isn't that wild? Amber Cosmic, hey Chuck, do you think we need to evolve past the truther movement? We can get stuck in narratives. I'm feeling like they don't serve us. It's a fine line, still figuring it out. And that is a great question, Amber. We definitely must transcend the ideas of needing a movement. We definitely need to transcend the idea of needing a path. And so someday, nature creature, as I consider it a movement, it will eventually dissolve in the same way that quote unquote truther movements right now are dissolving. You've seen some of the narratives that we started out with in 2021 that have kind of mellowed out and dissolved a little bit. And that's just part of what is the current development of the society and what is the capacity of that society and how do I contribute to that capacity. And so really that's what it's all about. And so there was a place for that truther movement at a time. There was a need for that at that time, but that need is lessening. It's lessening as time goes on. And eventually, believe it or not, even nature creature, what we're doing here, we all will move past it. We'll move deeper and deeper into higher and higher states of consciousness. And maybe we just start communicating telepathically. And you don't even need a machine or anything to interact with groups. You know, that and then at that point, you know, nature creature as something on a screen would not be as relevant. And, you know, so therefore the society would develop. And so I see all of these things as simply developments. The truther movement, the Q movement, the anti-establishment movement, the nature creature movement. These are all just movements that happen as society develops. And so, yeah, we're going to have to move past the truth movement. Yeah, we'll have to think on higher terms and move past the idea of right and wrong and move into these ideas of contrast rather than conflict. And again, this is all moving into the state of oneness. Okay. Sage had some really good comments on Jesus, where he went for his training. Yeah, I think he went to India. I think that was his disappearance for so long in the Bible, is his going into India. So we're from the God consciousness, but we're later messed with by aliens. Yeah. Part of the challenge of awakening Kogi is having the experience of the dynamisms, the super evil and the super good and everything between. And when we came here for an experience, we came here for the dynamisms. We came here for what it is like, the feeling. What is the feeling like to be in this super evil position? What is the feeling like to be in this super STO position, loving position? And as you go through life, you'll know this. As you go through life, you've experienced some of that. Some of your lowest lows, some of your highest highs. You've personally experienced that in the dynamisms of your life. And as you've lived life and as you've gone through, you've learned your lesson. And you see, and you look back on your life, and even though you might have regrets, you might have stuff like, man, I would have never done that. I never would do that again or whatever. You're better off from it. The person who is graduating and moving forward begins to embrace their mistakes as their greatest lessons, so those mistakes don't continue to harm them. Until you forgive yourself and move past the mistake and see it as an asset that taught you, it will continue to pull you down. You have to release it and say, okay, I screwed up. What is the lesson? What is the value I can take from this? Because it cost me my life. It cost me peace. It cost me money. It cost me relationships, whatever. What can I take from this, learn from it, so that I no longer have it costing me? Living in regret, living you wish you could do it again, living to change it, living for it to be different. That's just all self-loathing, self-consumption. If you really want your assets to really be your, if you really want your mistakes to be your asset, you have got to move past the pain that they caused you and learn from that pain, so that it's no longer pain. It's simply the process of learning. Really, really, for God's honest truth, we've got to move past these ideas of life is just the one that you're seeing. Okay. Let's go to the next question here. Thanks, Jay. I'm glad you liked what I had to say. I appreciate that. Yes, I agree, Jay. Every time we reunite here, it's a meditation. 100%. It's a ritual. We are engaging in ritual activities when we have these group, I'm going to start calling these Wednesday session, group therapy session. This is our public therapy session when we all come together as a family and we talk, we reason, and we disagree and agree. That's called a ritual. That's a meditation. It's growing, it's developing, releasing from the old way, releasing from the old thoughts with new thoughts, new ideas, larger concepts, and growing. That's called meditation. Great words there, Jay. Very good. Very good. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A child doesn't learn, a child remembers. Yes, because we forgot everything we came here. Hi, Cindy. Where does George Soros, Bill Gates, and the Clintons, where do they go when they die? That is such a good question, Cindy. Well, if they are, I'll give you the answer according to Cassiopians. According to Cassiopians, if they are capable of 3D and 4D, meaning Soros, Gates, Clintons, and so forth, that they're not OPs, then when they die, they will continue to further their quest of self-consumption. And so they will go to a place whereby they will continue on that journey, should they choose to want that journey. If they are 3D and 4D capable, they go to 5D when they die. And one of the one of the concepts from the Cassiopians is that when you go to that 5D, it's a place that is outside time and space. There's no differentiation. And it's a place of instinctual drive, or that's not the word to put it. It's a place of contemplation in the sense of where change can happen. But without dualism, I don't know how that change would be facilitated at that 5D. We're moving into a wordless space here, and it's going to be hard to define it. But what I understand is that it is a place of contemplation. It's a place of contemplation, but not in the sense of contemplation like you have here where you're comparing for your contemplation. It's a contemplation that's past comparing. And from what I understand, there are quite a few that go there as STS and come out as STO. But the really hardened demons, the hardened ones that are just never going to change, they eventually crystallize into stronger and stronger STS 4D creatures until finally they become so powerful as a 4D STS that when they go to 5D, they completely self-consume like a black hole, which is interesting because 5D is called the black hole. And this is a person that has so consumed themselves that they dissolve themselves into nothingness, which is what a black hole is. And then the black hole has a jet stream that comes, I think, out of the North and South Pole, or the poles on either side of the sphere. And that's the ejecta. That is what it has consumed, the planets, the stars, whatever, the space, the dark matter, that it is consumed. And then it is ejected back into the universe. And what I guess is that a person who goes the full-blown 4D STS and they fully crystallize as an STS, they completely self-consume, and then their spirit is re-ejected into the universe as a 1D beginning again starting point of consciousness. And they're going to spend millions and millions of lives like they did beforehand redeveloping. And maybe they'll develop into another STS, maybe they'll develop into an STO. But the point is that they don't get past 5D. You only have a high enough consciousness and a high enough resonation if you're an STO at that fifth density. Like you've been on that road and you've crystallized into that. And crystallized meaning not crystallized in the material sense, but crystallized in the spiritual sense. It's not a physical crystallization. It's a spiritual crystallization, which is outside of words. It's like talking about God. And the best way we can relate to it is you've solidified into that spiritual expression. You have completely grown into the manifestation that you could potentially be. And you've realized it. And then you move into 6D, meaning you have grown beyond any comprehension. And so these realities that are coming out and going into this 50, again, it's a touchy space because it's outside of words and we're trying to define it. We're trying to say this or that happens, and that's working with contrast and dualism. And again, you can see how we can get caught up again. So the idea is just have a general sense. And that's what I'm trying to do in using all of these words in this blasphemy, is to just offer a general sense so that you can get an idea in your head of a general concept, but you don't stay out of touch with your life here and now. That's the point. It's good to contemplate these things, but stay grounded. Stay here and now. Stay right here in the present. That's where we need you as the collective. We need you here. Nothing wrong with meditation and all that kind of stuff and going into those other planes. Again, that's fine. But we need you here. We need you. We all need to participate in the betterment of one another. And so absolutely always come back and be grounded here. Be here now. Be present now. So as for the Clintons and Soros, yeah. And to be honest with you, Cindy, I don't care. I don't care about George Soros. I don't care about Bill Gates. I don't care about the Clintons. I don't care where they go when they die. I don't care. That's their business. I'm dealing with me. I'm taking care of me and handling my SHIT. Yeah. That's kind of where I land. And that's probably why I don't have a really good answer for you in regards to them, because I just don't care. So you don't believe you arrange to have certain experience? Spiritual ascension. Thank you for asking that question. I'm asked that question all the time. So do I believe that we arrange to have a certain experience before entering the simulation. Yeah. I hope I don't alienate a lot of you in my answer into this, but I believe that we have free will, and so it's not a certain experience that we're going after. We're going after the experience of authenticity. We don't jump in here with an intention. We jump in here with an idea of experiencing. There's no vector coming here. There's no path. There's not a certain thing you need to learn. There is a theater. There is a theater, and that theater will be conducive to the things that you need to continue to grow in. But there's not like, okay, now in my life, when I'm born, I'm going to have these parents, and then I'm going to face these kind of things, and I'm going to learn these lessons, and then I'm going to learn this other lesson, because then you already know. If you're planning all these things you have to go through to learn lessons that you need to learn, well, you've already learned the lesson because you already know what you need to learn. That's why you're planning the lesson. There's an oxymoronic issue there. Whereas if we come here in the total authentic space, free will, and this is the theater for you. And this theater is going to teach you lessons that you don't know, that you need to learn. So there's no path. Are you going to discover them by applying yourself and being present in the here and now and fully engaged in life so that you can learn? That's what, to me, that's what's happening when we come here. We're not fulfilling a role. We're not achieving anything. You're not trying to get anywhere. You're not trying to do anything. You came here to experience and grow. And what comes out of that? Who knows? Who knows? But don't be caught in the egregores. They're going to compromise your experience. Don't be caught up in belief. It's going to compromise your perception and growth, right? Don't get caught up in the pain. It's going to frustrate your development. You see, we are in a theater, and the idea is to fully experience, be fully there, and then out, leave. No connection, no gripping. Have the experience. Be in love, be in hate, be in whatever, have it, and then move on. Don't cling to what if, don't cling to if only, don't cling to, oh, if I'd just done that or the other. You're then in a state of anxiety. You're clinging. The maximum amount you're going to learn is by releasing from it, not hanging to it. And if you came here with an intention, you're hanging to something. If you came here with a plan and what you have to learn, you're hanging to something. You are free, friend. And so liberate yourself by freeing yourself from those kind of objectivities, objectifying your life like that. Free yourself by literally waking up in the morning and not knowing, not thinking, but simply being, engaging, walking into the world, no hang-ups, no grabbies, and completely giving yourself to it. You know, because how do I give myself to something if I'm hanging on? You know, I have to give it all away. So I'm sorry, spiritual ascension, and I say that with all due respect, if you do believe that you came here for a certain experience. I don't. I think we're in a free space, and what happens to you is your free choice. And there was no plan before you came. There was just, we're going on the amusement ride. Don't know what it's going to happen. Don't know what it's going to feel like. Don't even know if I'm going to live through it. But I'm going for it. That's why I like the idea of racing as a basis for your approach to life, where you were just giving yourself to it, and you don't know if you're going to make it out the other side of that corner, and you don't care because you are giving yourself to life. And I don't mean don't care, meaning you don't care about life. I'm meaning you don't care what happens on the other hand of that experience. You're not living for the fruits. In other words, you guys have heard me talk about that. You're not seeking the fruits. And the true racing driver is the one that's racing on instinct, that doesn't have a plan for that corner, but is following the way the car feels and maximizing his grip based on what the car is telling him now, not on theory, not on some plan. Where am I at now? Because now is when the magic happens. If I want magic, it happens now, because magic is unplanned. I'm talking about this authentic magic of giving yourself to life. And if I want to realize the magic, I can't have a plan, because then the magic is in the plan. I can't have a plan. I just jump in. right? And I don't know if I'm going to make it out of that corner. I don't know, but I'm going to give it a shot. This, to me, that's the appropriate approach to life. And if you've got a plan, it's hard to have that approach because you always feel like you got to get somewhere. I'm trying, Kogi. I love you. I'm trying. I promise. I promise. Okay. Clintrons. I remember you from the other channel. Good deal. Nice. Chuck, do you see these concepts, alien DNA manipulation, hundreds of thousands of years of history and resets, etc., as mythology in the same way that religions is nothing as proof or evidence? I see. Okay. I don't see them as religious mythology because I feel like religious mythology has an intention to get you. I think authentic mythology is presenting you the scenario and then you make your own conclusions. A religion is trying to drive you to a point. It's trying to drive you to a belief. It's trying to drive you to a certainty. Religion is. A true mythology is a story. What are you going to do with it? I can go to a movie that's completely fictional, but if it's got a good storyline to it, it will change me. Now, did I go to that movie with the intention of changing? No, but it had a good enough storyline, a good enough make-believe play that it impacted my life. And that's very real and important. But if I go into a movie and that movie, let's say, is some kind of state, intention to train you, right? There isn't that freedom that's there. It's not a mythology. It's a religious discourse. They're telling and teaching you something. The Bible isn't trying to show you a larger world. It's trying to teach you the world. That's why it doesn't ask your opinion. The Bible never asks your opinion. It is telling you. It's telling you, which is how you know it's not a fully humane document, because any book that tells you, right, that works under threat, that says you got to believe this or you're going to hell, it's telling you, that's inappropriate. You want books that simply, hey, here's a scenario, here's a picture. What do you think? What's your take on it? What's your opinion? Right? And so I think that what happened was with mythology is that our tragic history was put into these mythological pictures, which then also emulate the human emotion, because the human emotion is what's enduring those cataclysms. And so there's a way to model the cataclysm in the emotional sense, so that the metaphors and the mythology speak to your emotional state, because they are speaking to the world that we came from, which shaped our emotions, which shaped our response to being here, which is why mythologies are so conducive to your growth. The true mythology, the true ones about the gods and fighting in heaven and demons, all this kind of stuff, are just to show you deeper principles so that you don't have to go through that yourself here on this planet, or you will. If you don't learn from the mythologies, you will experience what's in the mythologies, and it's painful. And so the mythologies have many roles. They have a role not only of expressing in a spiritual sense our torrid history, but they also express our emotional sense in the way that they present themselves in the zodiac, in the way that they present themselves as these characters, which we can identify through. I mean, if you look at a child, what is a child doing all the time as they're growing up? They're pretending they're something else. They're pretending they're Superman. They're pretending they're Wonder Woman. They're pretending they're cowboys and Indians. It's a natural instinct for us to pretend. And so mythology allows us to enter the pretend space for adults. And we see ourselves as these gods, just like we saw ourselves as Superman when we were a little kid. And except in the adult sense, these impact you in the same way. If you thought you were Superman, and all these ideas that you had of being all these characters as a child impacts your life, has effect on you. And mythology used to be the same way. And so not only do they show you our tough history, but they also render to you the complexity of your emotional state and how difficult it's going to be to balance that system in order to realize a higher spirituality, which comes out of that emotional state. Do you see? Big concepts that are extremely helpful. That was a fantastic question, Clintrons. There's a difference between meditation and contemplation, yes. But I don't see those things as mattering. There's a difference between many things, but what matters is the experience. What matters is, what do you get out of the meditation? What do you get out of the contemplation? Like, what are you as a person when you walk out of that meditative state, out of that contemplative state? And how is that serving you? Yeah. Yeah, Ashkin is awesome. He's awesome. Escape Your Fate 7. Nice. How would you describe the boundary between the observer and the observed? If the idea of separation is false and everything is one or the all, then isn't there technically no boundary? Yes. Yes. And you see, Escape, here's the cool thing about being a human. You're able to have the full-blown hardcore spiritual experience, like out-of-body experience, like, you know, the physical world doesn't even matter anymore, right? You're able to have that experience as a human. And also as a human, you can have the full physical experience. You can experience orgasms. You can experience the roller coaster ride, jumping out of a plane. You can experience, you know, building a company on your own. You can experience earning money to buy a car. Okay, and so these are important. These vivify you as a person. They vivify your life. And so we live in this illusion. Here's the funny thing, Escape Your Fate. We all agree to live in this illusion called 3D. We all know it's fake. We all know that it's just a figment of your imagination. It's a product of your mind, and your mind isn't real. You can't hand me your mind if I asked you to hand me your mind, because the mind doesn't exist. Okay, so we're all in on that game. But the beauty of the game is that it is transient, that it does have life and death. That's the beauty of the game, is that you get to experience both. And as a human being, that's incredible. And when you can begin to have that understanding in yourself, you see, you begin to fall in love with your experience here. And when you fall in love with your experience here, can you have a bad one? You know, because everything's learning, everything's growing, everything's radical. Because you are living in an illusion. The world becomes what you think it is, you know? And that, to me, is a playground. That is something to be celebrated. That is something to be adored. And we have just been so beat down by the controllers that we have lost this profundity that we carry, this incredible ability to experience spirit and matter at the same time. And that is beautiful. And that is beautiful. So yeah, part of it is realizing the beauty of experience, is realizing that me and you, Escape Your Fate 7, me and you are one. In case you didn't know that. You and me, Escape Your Fate, and everyone else in chat, we all have the same identity. Okay? But we're all wearing different costumes. And the costume isn't just your face and body, it's also your ideas. Your concepts also compose your costume, because you share those concepts with others, and they become a part of your costume, your take, the way you are, right? And you see, when you begin to see everyone like that, it's like, holy cow, I want to find out about everyone else, because I want to know their take, and I want to know what makes them happy, and I want to know what made them who they are, right? And so life becomes this adventure, you know, and it has this totally different context than the one that we were handed by controllers, which is that life is some type of path or task, and you got to stay at the path, stay at the task in order to achieve the goal at the end of the race. You see, and to me, that's depleting. It's depleting, because you didn't come here to follow a path. You didn't come here to obey. You didn't come here to do as you're told, right? You came here to think for yourself, have your own discernment, make your own decisions, create your own path, right? Create your own way, create your own take, right? Okay. Nice. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Collins. I like that. When you try to force two magnets together, you feel the resistance. Hold a magnet to a paperclip and snap. It's not the same with people. Yeah, is it not the same with people? Yes. Yeah, you do. You feel it, don't you, P.W. Collins? It's so interesting you say that. So last night, Jenny and I went to dinner with a gentleman from that I met through chat. Him and his wife, dear people from across the way, and he's a photographer. I mean, they're great people. And so I had been in some email contacts with him, and then his wife, who travels for her work, he travels with her, and so she had some work in Bellingham, which is one of the cities near where I live. and they had to be in Bellingham. And so he wrote me this note. He said, hey man, you want to get together? Let's have some dinner together. And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And oh my God, we met at Northport Pizza. He was the greatest guy, and his wife was the nicest. We had the most awesome conversation. And it was exactly that, Collins, P.W. Collins. It was immediately hit off. Like I met him, I met his wife, Jenny was with me. You know, she met him and his wife. And I'm telling you, it was 3 hours at the table and we just couldn't stop talking. It was fantastic. And it was just like that. It was like a magnet and a paperclip, and we just got along. And it was fantastic. And that all came out of chat. I literally met this gentleman on chat. We had some discussions, and yeah, he thought that I was a nice guy, and he said, hey, you know, if you want to hang out, we'd love to have dinner. My wife and I would love to have dinner with you and Jen, and it worked out, and it was so great. So yeah, sometimes it's like that for sure. Hi, Sophia Soflegio. So glad that you're here. So sorry it's so early. We've had a good time. Oh my goodness, we've already gone over 2 hours. I can't believe it. This was only supposed to be 2 hours. Oh my God. Okay, let's finish it up here. Let's get one more question, and we'll just keep on going. We'll do this next week. Okay, let me find one more question. Can we do a deeper dive into the younger Dryas for those that want to understand it deeper? Sure, we could. So the younger Dryas was a cataclysmic event. Now, this is very complicated. We'll talk about this. We're going to be talking about the context or the cantext this coming Saturday. And so I'll make a special note to talk more about the younger Dryas. But the younger Dryas was the end of, how can I put this? The younger Dryas was the end of Atlantis. Atlantis came after the Semitic infusion 130,000 years ago. And then for 130,000 years, we lived in that Semitic infusion. We still are. And the blowing up of Cantech, the planet Cantech, is the precursor to Atlantis. And it is the debris that came out of that explosion or implosion of Cantech that caused, in my opinion, the younger Dryas. These are all part of the larger STS plan for humanity. And so the meteors that hit the Earth at the younger Dryas, which was about 11,800 years ago-ish, right around in there, was the end of Atlantis. That finished off Atlantis. Atlantis is us. It's us in our formal reincarnating back, going back thousands of years. That's us. That's same soul, passengers, human spirit, human collective. Okay, we built Atlantis. And then the younger Dryas came, wiped us all out. We reincarnated, came back. We're now post-Atlantis. That's where we're at now. And so the younger Dryas was that transitional cataclysm that changed the entire scape and scope of the Earth. The Earth was much different in its physiology, so to speak, then, because there was a huge ice cap, and there was an entirely different continental structure because of the younger Dryas was catastrophic. I mean, it wiped out all but just a few. It really was. And so the younger Dryas was really a bifurcation point and is really the beginning of the closing phase. That's what a lot of people don't realize, is that the Dark Ages and the younger Dryas and all the thousands of years of fighting it out in the desert leading up to the Dark Ages, the church and everything, these are the final phases of the wave. These are the final movements to fully capture the society. That's why religion is so pernicious. It's coming after you. It's designed to capture you through the Semitic infusion they put into you. Religion is just, it's like a trigger word for a controlled, abused victim in the CIA. You can only open them up with a trigger word. And so in many ways, religion is a trigger word for the Semitic infusion that was put into us 130,000 years ago. And it's the key. And it unlocks this dogmatic, stubborn, closed-minded individual. That's the Semitic infusion. And then religion comes in and it takes that closed-minded tendency, that non-listening, non-growing tendency, and it exacerbates it with the religion. The religion is the key to opening the Semitic infusion. So the younger Dryas happened to set the public up to be receptive to religion, which is why Western society was taken over by religion. That's the design. We contain all the development of this population that's coming after younger Dryas by forcing everyone into religious contexts. This compromises each individual and doesn't allow the society to grow. So this last phase that we are in the wave is the cap, is the conclusion to what they have been doing since 309,000 years ago. That's how big a deal younger Dryas was. It was to finally encase, assure, moor that Semitic take that was put into our brain genetically. Isn't that wild? Isn't that wild? Okay, we've got to call it off. We've gone way too long. Thanks everyone for being here. Please know that I have a second channel, Chuck Swindoll Jr. on YouTube, and I also have my website, which is naturecreature.net. If you're more interested in this kind of dialogue, we meet once a week on Zoom. And every week I meet with the public randomly, everyone who's a member of my naturecreature.net. It's $9 a month to be a member to support all the work that I'm doing. So if you want, you can become a member and then you can join Zoom. And if you want to have a face-to-face dialogue with me, if you want to ask me some tough questions, I don't ever bar questions at my Zooms. Anyone can ask anything they want. So if you want to come and stump the guesser, you can. You can do that at Zoom. You can stump the guesser. And so we meet once a week on Sundays at 1 o'clock in Zoom. And then also I've got a show every Saturday, this coming Saturday, in fact. We start every Saturday at 5. We usually go to about 8. It's a 3-hour show, and it's 5 o'clock Pacific. And I present a lecture. So my lectures and the work that I do coincide with the dialogue you're hearing today. The words and phrases that I use and all the concepts that I'm giving you today in these live sessions are what come out of the lectures that we do on Saturdays. So for you to learn the vocabulary, for you to understand what we're talking about here, attend on Saturday when I go through these lectures, and it will render to you what we're talking about here in the nitty gritty. It'll show you the details through the slides that I make, which render out these concepts that I talk about. And then we're going to continue to do this every Wednesday at 4 o'clock. We've gone way over. I never intended this to go. I always get lost in the discussion, but we usually, my intention is for this to go 2 hours, and they will always be available for replay. So this channel, after we're done here, it's going to make it public. This video, public, and you can come back and you can review it anytime. Cool? Did we pass 300 subscribers? I don't know. That's a great question. You're welcome, Fortune. Glad to be here. We will all have the bugs worked out by next Monday. Yeah, exactly. I'll do better next week. I'll do better next week, I promise. Sorry that you're late, Nature's Amnesia. We've had a good one. Yes, we beat 300. Nice. Thank you, Clintrons. We're at 305. Awesome. We will end on that positive note. Thanks everybody for being here. And there's all the links you can see that Stacy just gave of how to find us, how to be here. Incredible. We made it to 300, everybody. This is incredible. This is fantastic. Okay, I will see you next Wednesday at 4. I'll see you Saturday at 5 Pacific time. Love you guys. Amazing. Great to be here. Glad that you're here. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. Be sure to like and share. Please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Okay, we'll see you later. I don't even know how to end this thing. Here we go. What?